let's now move to part two. Now that we have sort of set a scene in some way, that, singularity, it's up to us whether it's the end of the human era or not. But unless we wake up and start educating ourselves and start finding our voices, we dictate our own future. So now take tech singularity into the classroom. How will it impact our children's lives? And I know your blog, you expressed excitement, but also caution. You said we stand at an intersection with the power to shape this future in ways that amplify the best aspects of human learning and development, that which I have referred to as HumAInology. Let's talk about the strengths and opportunities accruing. What are the strengths? Let's get positive for a moment. What are the strengths, considering that our colleges of education educate their teachers in formation, and the teachers already at the coalface probably are very well placed to give the best of the traditional and the best of what's the advancement that's coming at us. They're probably more grounded than anybody to do that. So let's talk about the strengths accruing of the whole thing.
And thank you for that, because first of all, I'm not going to take a swipe like in Irish sense of playing a game of hurling, which you play with a stick and a small ball. And some person said to me once from America, it's like 30 people out there trying to kill one another in a beautiful way. I said, yeah, but they never get hurt. If you play hurling, the positives. Education in most countries has always been looked upon under one word: assessment. Mm-hmm. If you can't assess it, it's not worth teaching. And indeed, recently, I've heard a very prominent guru who was interviewed saying, if you can't assess it, it's not worth teaching. How can you assess love? How can you assess unconditional love? How can you assess the capacity of a child to hug a tree? Because not everything needs to be accessible. And also the idea of the fish climbing the tree. Neurodiverse and differently abled children are differently abled. Therefore, you cannot assess differently abled unless you assess them in a different way. AI and Singularity has the capacity to have a personalized, intelligent tutoring system to adapt for each child who is differently abled in a way that brings a journey. I love that word, of empowerment. You talked about agency, that will give agency to each human being, no matter who he or she or they are, to engage with a curriculum and curricula that can be personalized. We're doing a project at the moment called AI for edu.eu. So AI number 4, edu.eu, in which we're working with our colleagues all over Europe, and particularly with our Greek colleagues leading it, where we're looking at two things called teacher mate and study buddy, where the new subjects in the Irish curriculum of climate action sustainability, where we put up the idea of the curricula there, and the curricula are looked at from the study buddy. The child can go in and study that with a buddy who's the AI buddy to understand at his, her, or their pace where they're at, so that they can improve the sense of understanding, connectivity, meaningfulness, to allow them to have that personalized journey. And the teacher mate allows the teacher to engage with the student in a variety of such incredible assessment models to ensure that that child, through his or her ability, different ability, is able to engage meaningfully with the curriculum. AI for EDU is doing that. We're in another project at the moment called Synapses Academy, synapses.academies. And if you do it, and that is where we're developing the future of continuous professional development, so that teachers at pre-service level, and we're working with Dublin City University here, with people like Professor Margaret Heffernan, and we're looking at people like Yvonne Crotty, and we're looking at people like Sean Manley in DCU. And we're looking at ways with the pre-service teachers and with our in-service teachers through Dublin West Education Centre and Drumcondra and Blackrock, indeed, and working with people like the European Association of School Heads with IPPN in Ireland, whereby, and the Irish National Teachers Organisation and others, how we can develop continuous professional development for the future, because there is no planet B under sustainability citizenship. So Singularity and AI has the capacity to give what you spoke about, using your words, agency, empowerment, meaningful engagement at a pace and a journey for each teacher to provide in a constructionist way. Now, I'm going to differentiate between constructivism, where the teacher is at the center of the classroom controlling, to constructionism with Papert, whereby the teacher is constructing and the children are constructing their own learning, and they empower themselves by constructing their own learning in an environment like AI for EDU and Teacher Mental Study Buddy, like with Synapses, or like you have behind me, Astronomine, whereby we can bring astronomy education, and like Bathos, which was done in Dublin West, whereby we were into food waste and the understanding of sustainability, and the other projects that are going on at the moment in Europe, like EcoSteam AI VR, where we're bringing in avatars and music, because some children who will be more in the creative flow, as opposed to the what we call the critical, that they feel an equity of opportunity. So it has the capacity to equalize the old program on the equalizer. And that's something, again, Patrice, if I may say this, that we need to go back to the colleges of education to ensure that what you said, the teachers may be ahead of us. But the reality is, ahead of us is not what's important if they see themselves as hammers. I'm going to keep coming back to this. If they see themselves as the bag of sugar, instead of looking upon themselves as, we are pedagogues. We are there to lead, to guide.
Do we give enough credit to the importance of the educator? Do governments, do corporations? I mean, there comes a time that some teachers, when they're out socially, don't admit that they're teachers. There seems to be a deliberate diminution of respect for the power of education. And that's a tragedy, because no nation can rise above the standard, the value it creates to education and how it treats its neurodiverse, it's disabled, and it's aged. That is how we evaluate where a country is coming from. But right across the world, maybe it's the Western world thing, there seems to be a disregard for the value of the educator. You take the Finns. The Finns told their teachers, without you, we cannot recover from recession. You are entrepreneurs. They all did their masters. They brought the university and the research out to the schools. They didn't pay them much more than Irish teachers, but they gave them respect. They taught them up, and it didn't cost them anything. And that's how the Finns raised their standards. Why can't we take that as a model across Europe?
There are many who would say that the Finns and that model you've talked about is massive positivity. There are many who would argue against that, because there's also the other side. But can we take it maybe a step further? The fact of the matter is that I believe, it's my opinion, and what the hell do I know, after maybe 50 years plus as an educator, but also, as you said, in many other walks of life, the single greatest thing that breaks my heart is that there are many countries out there where education is not provided as a right.
Yeah.
It's not a right. And if you do not educate, whether you like it or not, you're keeping people ignorant. And I'm using this in the strongest terms, because if you keep people ignorant, then the fact of the matter is they're controllable and they're malleable. And now your singularity, now everything you have feared, Theresa Mary Hand-Campbell, becomes real. But in society, teachers are afraid, many of them, to admit they are, because people go, "Oh, your teacher, she has so many months off in the year, she'll do nothing but babysit all day." People, sometimes there's a jealousy there. The fact of the matter is that in Ireland, to become a primary school teacher, you have to be at the top of your game in so many aspects of your education. Many other countries have not got that level of teachers going in. But taking that aside, and that's a reality if people wish to Google it. But the fact of the matter is, if you take the role of a teacher, I'm going to take the Irish Education Act. You are in loco parentis. Yeah. Once that door closes, in many cases to the children, you become mammy or daddy. You become the person that they listen to. The power, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. That is the educated person. But in the teacher's case, the influence and the power a teacher can have over students in creating the environment of meaningful, mindful, soulful journeying into learning is something that's incredible. But most people, and I'm going to get shot for this, most people out there who are not teachers think that teachers are just glorified babysitters and don't realize, and I often say this to teachers, if I may finish on this point, remember, the children you are learning, they say that's an incorrect verb. No. The children you are learning are your future pension, are the future of the economics and creativity of this country. So therefore, learn them well. Learn them well.
But I've come back to the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world.
Yes.
The title for a book that I'd love to write. Because when that phrase was coined, I would say parents were parenting their children and were being allowed to and facilitated to parent their children. I would say to you, the hand that rocks the cradle at the minute is not the parent, and it's not through their fault. It's economic necessity that both parents must go out and work. So you've got a 3-month-old or a 6-month-old handed into a creche. And
I hear you.
Got all of this going on. And then, come to the term in loco parentis, in place of the parent. Translate that, act as a prudent parent would. Give me the definition of a prudent parent in today's world. Prudence has taken another shape altogether. Now, that's an argument for a different day, but there are crazy things going on.
Well, I'm going to drive you mad. So then let's write the algorithm for the robots out there on Singularity, and let's get the robots dealing in an empathic way with a sense of consciousness, and let the robot become the parent as the hand that rules the world, and I'm sure everything will be right, won't it, Teresa?
Could you picture how much decision making are we willing to cede to AI? Those shaping and driving AI. That's a huge question.
I come back to the EU AI Act. I'm so happy to see it being so stringent, because that is answering that question, which is, in order for you to make these decisions, it must comply with. So I think we need to ensure at all times that we are ahead of the AI. We need to be bringing in governance. We need to ensure that governance is enforceable. And we need to know that the big powers that are out there, no matter how big they think they are, the people you refer to, are answerable, and they need to be answerable and brought before whatever powers that are there to ensure that they are answerable for what they do. Because again, if you allow X to be in charge of Y without any governance, without any sense of checks and balances, and remember, the EU AI Act is the only act globally that has the 5 levels of importance of compliance and governance.
It should become
the norm. But people, just to say to you, other continents are laughing at Europe because they're saying it's so restricted that they can now develop their AIs to levels that are incredibly potentially X, Y, and Z, while Europe is restricted. But the reality is, to come back to it, the spoonful of sugar, or the Luke Skywalker, or the Darth Vader, or the diabetes, the compliance and the governance is the only way that we really now, Teresa, I'm being honest with you, can actually ensure that people are called to task. They're called to answer for their actions. And if they don't do it, then there has to be a hammer. And by God, they have to be the nail, because we cannot, again, agency empowerment, we cannot give away our power to something with which we cannot vibrate and be at ease with.
I know.
We need, as human beings, to be able to be there, but we need the powers that would be to have that governance and compliance.
The transparency and explainability. We need that big time.
And results and consequences.
Absolutely. You've coined a phrase, HumAInology, is it? We need to develop models of human AI collaboration in education where the strength of both are leveraged.
Yes.
This might involve AI handling personalized content delivery and assessment, freeing up human educators to focus on mentorship, emotional support, and fostering critical thinking and creativity. Yes. I would say to you, one of the casualties of Singularity down the line could well be that whole thing of agency and critical thinking and creativity, unless educators are trained to make sure that it's not a casualty.
Touche. You've answered my question. You've answered your own question. Personalized intelligent tutoring, AI for EDU, Synapses, Bathos, Astronomine, all the wonderful products. We've one called at the moment EcoSteam AI VR. And it is where we're using things like, if you think of Microsoft and you think of the sense of Minecraft on steroids, where children can actually go in and create their own eco environments in an immersed environment so that they can see there is no planet B, and do it through avatar, do it through programming, that sense of creativity, where they again are constructing their own learning, and educators are empowering them to do this. They are facilitating these journeys. They are there in a meaningful way to encourage that difference which is there, that neurodiversity, which is every human being to do it. Then that is the education that we should be preparing our teachers for, i.e. the society which does exist and does not yet exist. Adapt, change, overcome. No, beyond that.
But so in your paper, you have a whole section there on preparing for the future. And that is part of preparing for the future. Developing AI literacy, ethical guidelines and governance, which you've spoken broadly on there, adaptive skills development, and collaborative human AI education methods.
Yes.
This is can go towards laying the groundwork for the future, I believe.
And in each of the blogs that we're putting out, I'm putting them out in the openness that there are going to be people probably out there who will say he is a total lunatic and will attack. But that's what it is, #AI debate, because these are the things which I believe some people are looking at in our, shall we say, governance. But the fact is we're not looking at, because AI is not like the old diesel, or go back, the old steam trains, woo, woo, and all of a sudden 3 hours later it's the other, you're right there, Michael, you're right. I mean, it's no longer the West Clare, shall we say, train. It's now trains that are running at super speed levels, virtually using magnets, and AI is coming at a faster pace of even what we would have even thought humanly possible. Therefore, our governance has to be ahead. But I will say, in each of the blogs, we're going to be dealing with this idea of teacher education, this idea of the ethical side, this idea of the collaboration within the classroom, this idea of society and humanity. And each week, over the 10 weeks, we'd love the sense of reading that. And by the way, again, I'm telling everyone, at the end of each blog, there's going to be a different elephant in the room, designed by AI art, as I would love it to be open AI and deep AI to see what it perceives to be that topic. And I would love people to engage and add to this, because we must now be, and I'm going to use this word, proactive. Because with AI, we are too reactive.
But take the word pace. I think pace is hugely important in the workplace, hugely important in terms of leaders embracing change, or even inducting their staffs in relation to change, etc. Take pace. Pace in relation to introducing the child, the ready child, to using AI as the tool. How will my child's brain development be usurped by tech singularity unless it's paced properly and timed properly? What will my child miss in terms of organic self-development, free from the influence of technology and all its aligned influences, good and bad? You watch Go into the shopping centre any day and you watch the yummy mummy coming with the buggy and the kid on the screen. Think of I put that child into an fMRI scanner and see how that brain is developing maybe in comparison to a child who's not holding the screen. Think of all the work by Professor Tom Butler, Mary Aiken, all of these people who have cried and shouted about the impact of screen on the developing brain. And now some people are suddenly waking up to it when a whole generation have been damaged by inappropriate premature introduction to screens.
Again,
loaded, I know.
Touche. But your question is wicked loaded. I mean, your question has so many booby traps at this particular moment. It's like a Trojan virus. But I will say this, in acknowledging everything you've said, the screen has also enabled the child who learns differently because of his or their neurodiversity to engage in a multimodal, meaning various media.
In its time, when paced properly.
Yes, I agree. Okay, next. And people might think this is a time, but every year we have marathons all over the world. If you decide to run the first kilometer and you're an ordinary runner in 3 minutes, then I'm telling you this much. There's still 41 kilometers left. Pace is key to any journey. And if you are an athlete, you know that pace is what brings you to the end, but also keeping one foot moving in front of the other. So therefore, the pace and the manner we have, and there's a huge corpus or body of research out there on the negative effect of screen on the human capacity, on the brain, on the human being. But also there is a lot, and there are a lot of data out there which can show that exposure to screen in a paced way, in a meaningful way, in a mindful way, in a way that is guided, can also present a huge possibility, probability, connectivity, ownership, agency to the people. I'll give you an example. Take children who are in hospitals who are paraplegic. Take those, shall we say, children who are in school. Those who would have, let's say, recently, those who would say that I remember someone saying to me, I said, who are blind, or you can't call them that anymore. I said, but what is blindness? Blindness is when you can't see. Who can actually now wear glasses, so when someone speaks, if they're auditorily okay, they can hear what's being said. Those who are deaf can now wear glasses, and when someone's speaking to them, it can bring up in front of the glasses, way beyond the Google glasses, exactly what is being said. Sure. And you commented on that. So the capacity to, at a pace level, which I agree, in a way that is governed, in a way that is introduced, in a way that is meaningful, can actually, ethical, the whole lot, in the way, and that's important, can actually enhance situation. But Teresa, I acknowledge that we can also put on headsets on kids that can drive their brains crazy. I mean, I'm going to get shot here. What do you think Hitler Youth did? What is this happening with people that are being indoctrinated all over the world right now with messages they're receiving from adults who are driving things into their heads as being the right thing to do and say, and convincing them that this is it. So this has always been part of humanity. So don't blame the AI. But what I can say is this, in acknowledging everything you've said, there is also the Luke Skywalker yang for that yin. And again, if we're clever, I keep coming back to the EU AI Act, but I also keep coming back to our own national AI Act in Ireland, which is available for people to read. And indeed, it's in all other European countries, which makes it indigenously ours for our Irish population. And I know people even look at that as something crazy. And when I say Irish population, I mean everyone who's living in Ireland right now. There is an AI Act which was brought out, and I know that Mr. Dara Kaleri was there, and I know the Taoiseach had a lot to do with it. I know many others had, to read this and to say there is guidance there as to how we should do this as the spoon full of sugar, if you want to take sugar or not. But don't blame the messenger. If we allow this to continue to evolve in the way that you have put it in negative, then we need to take responsibility.
So come back to the hand that rocks the cradle. I believe we need to educate parents. And I mean, if a lot of parents now are digital natives. So how do you deprogram them? To educate them. There's a real space there for education of the parent and education of the educators. And with due respect to both parties and their roles. Now, I'm going to throw a bombshell at you.
Before you do that, just say that there is WebWise in the Department of Education in Ireland, and many other groups out there do bring huge, incredible programs right now through IDA that have taken over, shall we say, the education CPD, and to allow them to go with parents. There are programs
there. They need to get to parents, though. They need to get out there.
But schools are offering these programs to parents, and they're doing it more and more, and schools are very proactive in this way. And I would like to acknowledge that these programs under Irish government are available and are being rolled out. But again, you can bring a horse to water, but
you can't make him drink. Yes, I remember organising evenings where I'd have people in, experts to speak about safety, online, etc. And I may have 5 parents turn up. I remember catching a captive audience at an open evening one evening, and my teachers the next morning were cracking up laughing. They said, Teresa, as you were getting more animated at the top of the room, the younger parents says, oh, to hell with this, and they all went online on their phones. Now, okay, so look, I'm going to ask you another question. I'm interested to hear your opinion on this one. In order to achieve the Great Reset, spoken of so often in this post-COVID era, we must first strip down what we have in place before we reshape and build back up. And I am asking you, and from my point of view, this includes denuding the human developmental experience, devaluing our education standards in curricula, and could this account for the present attack on educational standards we see in education systems across the world, hyperinflation of grades, etc., people being catapulted into third level courses that hitherto they'd never have gone into, and no reportage on the level of attrition among first years in third level. So is it a tear down to build up concept? Are we actually preparing our children for microchipping?
Oh, wow. First of all, the Great Reset. Why are you blaming COVID? I know. I lost 2 minutes. It was a great reset.
A catalyst to get it out there, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. It was the one time that nature said to the whole of humanity, hello, boom. And whether we liked it or not, we're not going to get into conspiracy there. It shut the world down. And people have a million conspiracies we're not going to get in. But I can say this. What you're talking about there right now in that sense of Great Reset, we're talking about inflated grades and people going into college doing courses they may well or may not. Again, that's bringing back to the old idea. Let me take the idea of maybe Netherlands, where if someone finishes their final, should we say, examination, let's say at 18 years of age, they may choose a course at third level if they so wish, because there's nothing wrong. I mean, let's put it this way, if you want to make a fortune right now, I hope you have a trade. While 20 years ago in Ireland, you were considered to be, come on, this is the Great Reset. But if you want to choose a course, I believe that every third level institution in this country, and I admire our President Taoiseach at this point in time, Simon Harris, and indeed the Minister for Higher Education, Patrick O'Donovan, for introducing many new pathways so that everyone, if they so wish, can go into a level where it can bring them to a different level of the standards.
Like the micro-credentials.
Yes, but if you look at, and micro-credentials are going to become more and more as we get into the European sphere and beyond. But the whole idea is that if you look at people going into courses, let them go into the courses. And if it's not for them, isn't it wonderful that at the age of 19, they can say, whoa, I need to reset. Maybe I need to go.
Let them self-eliminate.
Let me go. Or no. Change. Adapt, go to a different course, go to a different thing in university where they find their love, their passion. To me, education at that stage should be about following a journey to educate yourself about society, which does not yet exist, to be in university, to learn about the reality of who I am, what I am, doing the course I'm doing, because when I go out into the world, it's going to be a changed world. For example, everyone right now is programming in Python. Python is the big language. No, 40 years ago it was basic. And then it became CC+. And if you didn't know that, you couldn't go to the future. These keep changing. I believe that all courses that are there now are pathways like Albert Camus, whereby we can find our own step so that when we do go in as, we call them qualified into society, we can bring with us that humanity to deal with the ology, HumAInology, so that we can make the difference in a hashtag AI for good, hashtag AI for all, hashtag AI for equality. And people are probably saying now, when listening to me, this guy is delusional, he's off his head. But remember, if they say that, I acknowledge, but do you want to be the Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader or a mixture of them all? Yes, inflation of results, and people are giving out because when my child did the Leaving Cert 6 years ago, he or she or they had to have 675,000 points to become a doctor. Listen to me. The most important thing about a doctor is we know how important it is, but you know this, the old idea. You see me one over there. Yeah, that's got the bedside manner of a doctor. I mean, even think about that one. And that's not for every doctor. In the same way, see that thing there just should never be put in the classroom. You see that person there should never be put behind the till. Human beings are different, for God's sake. And I'm coming back to the point. The one thing AI can do is it can create the platforms which allow for a variety of methods to assess what we're doing in a way that is personalized, intelligent tutoring, so that we can all find that equality or equity of opportunity.
So there's space for a synergy there. And maybe there's a piece of work there to be done on making it less punitive than if a first year decides after 6 months to drop out, where the next course they go into, they may have to pay full fees. So there's a consequence there. So that should be eliminated, really. But come back to the other question. There's one other question.
Pastoral care. Pastoral care is vital in any third level institution or any position in which someone wishes to go to further education. There should be pastoral care there to have that human connection, to sit down and say, you didn't fail. What have you learned? Okay, now let's empower you to find what makes you feel passionate so that you can continue this journey. We must have pastoral care.
When you speak of pastoral care, have we become a bit soft? You know, I mean, we were tough when you think back on it. We bounced back. But the word anxiety, you didn't say that you felt anxious, and you didn't say that you were bored. But you got another job.
Oh, sure, Teresa, men don't cry. I mean, for God's sake, come on. Listen to me.
I would become very anxious, though. No, you had
a mother, and I had a mother. Yes. And even though a lot of people out there might find that the experience with their mothers were negative, I will tell you what. Your mother could tell before you came in the door. She could smell whether you were anxious or not. And in many ways, the old traditional ways in Ireland was you don't show sign of weakness, you don't cry, you get up and you do it again. And look at the damage that did to so many. I believe we have not gotten soft. What we have done is become more human, more engaged with the human being so that we can assist. Now, I also believe that we can sometimes give more than one spoon of sugar, which is not a good thing. So tough love, we said. Yeah. Tough love. But we need to support.
Are we preparing our children for microchipping?
Hey, if I have Alzheimer's, okay, or if I have I want to go motor neuron because my God, we won't even go there. But let's take Parkinson's. If I microchip a person who has Parkinson's right now, Google it and see what happens and look at YouTube. You will see that the person can, whoa, all of a sudden that which is causing that person to be in a position of major disability, all of a sudden is removed. So in the case of microchipping someone, and in the sense of the nice way of putting it in to improve their quality of life, 100% in favor of that. But if you're going to microchip someone, that so that everywhere they go, Big Brother's watching them, and all of a sudden we've got the 1984 Orwell, and everything is microchipped, and we can control you. And remember, just like in Star Trek, we are Borg. Resistance is futile. Then are we preparing our children for microchipping? No, we are not. And if we are doing that, then are we not stupid? Are we not taking the 10 spoons of sugar and we're openly convincing ourselves it's not going to be diabetic? Are we jumping off the cliff like the lemmings where we're all running going, whoa, whoa, whoa? I mean, if we're that stupid, then you know what? we shouldn't even be on this planet. We shouldn't even call ourselves human.
Are we prepared? I reckon it's on the horizon. You know, it's part of the strip down.
If it is, I would have to say that I hope to God I am gone out of this planet before that was, because that would mean that humanity has handed over everything that is human. Every human trait would have been handed over, and I now know what you're going to say next, but isn't that what Singularity is going to do in the reasons with humanity? And I'm going to say that no, because we are not slaves to technology. We are not Oliver. Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yes, but I've said this in a few situations in the past, and a few of these conversations on the handshake, and the attitude seems to be, well, Teresa, you know, I wouldn't mind a chip in my between my forefinger and my thumb, and that if I collapsed on the street, they would have immediate access to my medical records. And I'm inclined to think, is death that scary?
Well, listen to me now. You've chosen the one word. I think 99 out of every 100 people out there are afraid of their lives of death. What is death? What is death? It's like the song goes, what's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? Oh my God. I mean, death. But I hear what you're saying. By being microchipped, is it possible that there are positives? I am sure there's a million people who say out there, well, if you're a person who's done X, Y, and Z in life, you need to be watched. That microchip is making darn sure that you comply. But for me, the human being that allows himself, herself, or themselves to be microchipped just for the sake of being microchipped, then you might as well be the lemming running towards the damn cliff to jump off, because you have disempowered your humanity if you do not know the consequences of same. And this is vital. And again, any act or country that would enforce that, I could not put the word human on the people that would enforce that. That is inhumanity. That is control. That is the worst form of and people might not agree, worst form of control possible, where you can think of Star Trek, those are like a data, where all of a sudden they could turn him off, they go, turn him off, and then turn him back on again. If you can do that to a human being, then do you know what? Let's get the hell off this planet, leave the robots take it over, and let's all go to Mars.
I'll talk to you in 5 years about this one again. Tech singularity is a route to human de-skilling, and nothing to do with skilling per se. What do you think?
Skilling, de-skilling.
It's a route to human de-skilling.
It is not. It is not. Okay, a bicycle can kill you, yes? But if you learn how to cycle properly with the helmets, then it can become an incredible means of transport.
Well, let me give you a definition of de-skilling. It refers to the process where individuals lose skills, knowledge, or competencies due to increasing reliance on technology or automation. As has become more automated, the need for certain human skills diminish, which can lead to devaluation of those skills in the workforce and in society. I think we run the risk, unless man remains in the control tower, we run the risk of losing certain skills that are necessary for survival. I believe in educating our children. We need to educate them for survival as well. Let them out in the woods and let them survive for a week and see how they'll get on without the screen.
Well, Maria Montessori would agree with you, and I would agree with her. And we're doing a project at the moment, again, under Synapses, which is about the learning ecologies, whole school, open school. Let humanity be in the control tower, yes. If we look upon AI as something that de-skills us, then we have not looked at means or ways by which we can engage with the HumAInology so that we can upskill ourselves and be beyond. Remember, AI will not replace humans. The human who knows how to use AI, and I would say in a human way, in a HumAInological way, is the human that will replace the human. Yes, certain skills are going to go. I mean, think about this, Teresa. Years ago, people were lifting massive weights and they were breaking their backs and there's this one. Now you've got robots running all over, let's say, places like Amazon. That will be maybe Amazon warehouses are maybe 10 square kilometers. And they're doing, so we can utilize AI-driven machines to enhance our lives, to give us more time maybe to become human, maybe more times to become zen, to hug the trees, to connect with ourselves. And if we perceive that change, which is permanent and which is constant and continuous, if we perceive that as something that's bad, then why don't we get off our seats and look at ways that we can upskill ourselves so that we can synergize the HumAInology or the HumAInology in the humanocracy so that we can actually be in the control tower. But Teresa, being in the control tower doesn't mean that you have to be fully in control. Sometimes
guide it.
You have to just guide it, and sometimes you just have to. It's like a parachute. When you come out of your plane in your first parachute jump, you have to trust sometimes yourself to know what to do and when to do it. And that's when we connect with our own humanity, ourselves, our agency, our ownership. Singularity does not threaten us if we know. Remember what Shakespeare said, always to thine own self be true. And it shall pass neither day nor night that thou canst not be false to any other human being or person. I put in the last few words myself. But the bottom line is, if we are not true to ourselves, then do you know what? Let AI and Singularity take over. But again, please forgive me. I hope the hell I'm out of here before that happens.
So tech Singularity cannot be compared to any facet of the Industrial Revolution. Human upskilling and empowerment led to the success of the Industrial Revolution, whereas with tech Singularity, the human is giving over control of everything and, in fact, is rendering himself a soulless robot.
No, absolutely not. Industry 4 was all about letting the tech overtake the human, and it realized it didn't work because the human being and the human person is the person that's there working with the tech to make it do what it needs to do. Industry 5 is now moving on a stage whereby the human technology, the HumAInology, the HumAInology is working together towards the betterment. If we perceive that the Industrial Revolution, and we're now on Industrial Revolution 5, which we call Industry 5. It's at a stage where the technology and the human is working in synergy together for the betterment of mankind, for the betterment of humanity. And that's where we need to be. And at all times, I'll use your concept, we need to be in the control tower of the planes coming in and out. But at times we've got to trust the autopilot because we're the ones that have set up the autopilot. We have to look at the human being under the governance and compliance, the ethical professional, etc., that we'll deal with in the other blogs to ensure that the AI that's in there is working in synergy with us.
If that's in the hands of big corporations and the greedy 1%.
Why can't you? What's wrong with Teresa? I'm going away learning how to do Python right now and creating our own AI.
There's a real need for educators to be educators in it because they need to get in there and design.
Design for learning.
Yes, absolutely.
Not design learning. You see, that's the problem with curricula. Curricula design learning. Now we're designing for learning. I agree with you. And this is why this is a debate. Because, but again, the reason we're pushing this debate is people might say, well, everything you're talking about is AI. No. We would like to say to the listeners, please understand this is about singularity. Look at what Werner Vang in 1993 wrote about as science fiction. That science fiction is becoming very much science faction now. Yes. It's a fictional faction, and we're getting more and more towards it, and it is coming down the line. And all the blogs we're going to talk about are going to introduce a debate into all those aspects, and each elephant is going to be different in that room because it is ever changing, ever evolving. But please understand, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you out there who aspire to any gender, the minute you take your hands off the control, you have to know that what is driving what you're in has to be something which has been governanced, checked, which has to be there to vibrate, to be at ease with the goodness that is important in society and humanity. Otherwise, if you take your hands off the steering wheel and you allow it to be driven just simply by something that someone else has designed with absolute sense of laissez-faire, sure, it'll be all right in the morning, then please, I'm going to use the word duh. You might as well be Homer Simpson. As the Germans would say, ich heiße Homer Simpson, ich bin dumm und doof. I mean, literally speaking, change the life of one child. And it is my contention that we need to debate this now because, and I'd like to finish it on this, spoonful of sugar or diabetes, Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. But there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of Darth Vader because we need to be clever. And there's nothing wrong with having 2 spoons of sugar every now and again because it won't kill you. As long as you do it in a conscious, meaningful, mindful, soulful way. And again, the EU AI Act is a very good, stringent governance model.
My final question. Can tech singularity peacefully coexist with mankind, with men remaining the master, not the slave of tech?
Why do we have that master and slave? But I know what you mean. In other words, singularity is defined as coming to a point with an equality with humanity whereby then the singularity overtakes humanity and overtakes us at a pace whereby we as humans no longer in control of what we're doing. And that's a problem. If you define singularity as something that can do that, I would then say the human being that designed that algorithm that allowed the AI to rewrite itself without the checks and balances, literally speaking, and I'm going to get shot here, go to the Isle of Man, the cat and nine tails should have been brought back a long time earlier. We as humans, if we are foolish enough to take the 10 spoons of sugar, then actions, options, consequences. It is my hope, my humble hope, that we as humans will realize that what we are and have is very special. We are beautiful, creative beings with the capacity for such unconditional love. And we have the capacity for so much good. Why, oh, why? It's another day's thought. Why, oh, why do we have to, some people believe that we have to be so evil, so dark, so 9 spoons of sugar, so Darth Vader, so fearful. Why do we do this? And I'll tell you why. Because we actually don't realize how beautiful we actually are. And that makes me bloody sad, Teresa. Makes me sad.
I did hear a debate a few years ago in relation to this notion of the human. Who does he think he is or she is? This thing of a soul, that's ridiculous, that we're nothing more than an elevated animal. And that was infuriating to me. But I suppose this is for another chat.
What the other blogs?
What must the designers of educational curricula bear in mind in order to retain supremacy of the human? And we can obviously tease that over a series of blogs.
I can, but for the next blog, I'll say this. The most important word there is design for learning with the word human at the center. What is humanity? So as long as you keep designing for learning with humanity at the center, then you don't go astray. But if you take the word humanity out of it, now you have the capacity to go astray. And remember, that's the goal. And when we're talking about the role of teachers in the future, we're talking about the idea of the ethical consideration. We're talking about the sense of everything, professionalism, and the whole idea of governance. We're talking about how it's affecting society, young children, which are our future blogs. Always, I would say, as long as we keep the word human and humanity in its most beautiful sense at the center, then as someone said, hey, gringo, you might live south of the border, but you won't go wrong. Sure. You will not go wrong. And that's, if you said, put up the flagship, put up the beacon, I mean, it's the whole idea like Julius Caesar, which is constant as the Northern Star. Well, the Northern Star isn't constant, but in those days, I suppose it was. We need that beacon of light. We need the lighthouses as exemplars. And the lighthouse exemplar in all aspects of AI and singularity is humanity, designing for humanity so that we can synergize with, for Hashtag AI for good, hashtag AI for equity, hashtag AI for all, accepting that Darth Vader and diabetes exist and that some people think they're just hammers. Blog number 2 and 3 going to be interesting, Teresa.
I'd love to have a transhumanist on at some stage and have this debate, because it's a very interesting area, but I think we're on the cusp of something huge, and we really need to regain our voices and our courage and direct it. And I'm delighted with the EU initiative. I think it should become the blueprint across the world. But our children are our future.
They are. And if I would say to people, feel free to go to LinkedIn, find me there, Dr. Daithí Ó Murchú. You'll see blog number 1. You'll see the elephant. I'd like you to look at the elephant, talk about the elephant, see what Teresa and I are going to put out in podcasts 1 and 2. Feel free to rip and strip us. Feel free to put up your thoughts, because if you do, we have incited, INCITED, we've incited debate. We have the privilege of asking you to think of the humanity and not of the fear. And the blogs are there, and the big blog is up, and AI number 4 edu.eu is there. Synapses Academy is there. The Astronomine behind us, which is there. The whole idea of the BAPOS, the whole idea of EcoSteam AI VR. These are projects which we are bringing out to enhance, engage, enable, empower that agency of beyond the Lundy model of the voice of the child, but the voice of the teacher, the voice of humanity. Yes. And so we leave it at this moment, and not forgetting, I will finish where I started. Remember, Daithí, that thou art dust, and into dust thou shalt return. But before we do that, let's get this singularity out there and let's keep this ship rocking. Let's do it.
Hey, thank you for coming on the Handshake. And here at THC, total human capital, total human collaboration. Really, that's what it's all about.
Merci beaucoup. Gurv mila magut. Dankeschön. And so many things. Gurv mila magut. Until the next time, be careful out there.
Thank you. Thank you.